I'm Steph Johnson, and I'm the Director of Esoteric Technologies. And this is a company behind mainly astrology software. Well, it is astrology software. So this is the company that produces the astrology company, and I've been programs, and I've been doing this for many, many years. And while I say this is astrology software, which some of you have contacted me and said, oh, it's astrology. What's that got to do with it? We also have many people over the years, over the decades, who use this software for the cycles of the planets. And the cycles of the planets, they then correlate with financial trading and also with astrometeorology. So this is where we're at tonight. We're going to look at just some of the basic settings for astrometeorology. So I'm going to demonstrate how to create one of those basic charts with the settings used by David Burton, aka Inigo Jones. Now, some of you have done his course, I know that, and some of you have done it and are doing it again, and some of you haven't done his course yet. Don't worry, this will be recorded and you'll be able to go through it again, and we'll send it out probably on Monday, and I suggest you save it. One of the participants tonight has also suggested that you take screenshots as you go along. Just if there's something where you go, okay, I need to screenshot that, just take that with your camera as your iPhone or your Android camera tonight. So just the other thing I want to say is it may not make a lot of sense. I've been doing this for years, and when I first started, it took a long time to correlate things. I had to sort of learn this bit and learn that bit. And if you imagine it a bit like when you first learn a car, some of you might be really speedy learners, but it took me a while back in the day for the manual to work out what went where and to get it all coordinated. And that's certainly what's going to happen as you start to go, well, hang on. The first point is, the planets, they actually affect planet Earth, and they actually affect the weather. That's new, and it is in some circles quite outrageous even, and you've seen, if you follow David, you will know that he's pretty disparaging of BOM, the Bureau of Meteorology, and he reckons they get it wrong a lot, and he does get it right a lot. So that's when people start to go, oh, okay, the planets and meteorology, maybe there's something in it. After all, the moon affects the tides, so why wouldn't there be other magnetic pulls on planet Earth? So what I'm going to do tonight is show you those charts that you probably sometimes see if you've been with David at one of his workshops, or if you've even been following him on his social media, you'll see those charts that pop up and you'll recognize it when you see it. This is not a theory class, because although I know a lot about the planets and world events, the planets and people, etc., this is a very specialist area, astrometeorology. And if you've been on Telegram, you will see that I have recommended a couple of books. There are really only a couple of books out there. H.S. Green's Astrometeorology, and if you can get your hands on it, C.C. Zane, he's from the Brotherhood of Light, but he's got something on astro and the weather as well, and that gives you a bit of theory. But tonight what I want to do is show you the settings that David uses, because the charts look in themselves maybe not familiar, but the settings that David uses are quite specific. He's done a lot of research, so even though it might seem like this information is pretty basic, what you're getting is his years of expertise and the settings, the way the planets make the relationship to Earth, if you like. You're getting his experience with that, and he uses this software to get that. So I'm going to get a Gem to put a flyer into the chat box now, if you want to have a look at that. I put this together so that you can just get, because I thought some of you might not even be familiar with, you probably be familiar with Venus and Mars, because, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, or that might change. I was just watching a film today, that might change. But anyway, you won't know what Saturn or Uranus or Neptune or Pluto look like. So this is what these little symbols will mean in the chart, and I will go through them when we get to the chart. So don't worry if it's all a bit overwhelming. This is a familiarization. This is an introduction, and this will also stand you in really good stead as you get further and further, if you choose to, further and further along the track of studying astrometeorology and going through David's techniques. You will be able to refer back to this if you like. It's almost like referring back to a dictionary or a thesaurus or something like that. So anyway, I'm going to share the screen now, so you will see. Just checking with Jem. Jem, can everybody see that?
It's nice and clear on my end. So if anyone can't see it, just send me a message in chat and I can workshop you through it.
Lovely. I'll just do a little shift around if I can, because it's just blocking, Zoom's blocking it a bit. Okay, so here is one of those charts. Here's one I did earlier. So this is the finished product, and this is over here. You'll see some of these weird words, and we're going to go through them as to what they are. But this is the chart. This is it's an astro weather chart, if you like, for a particular point in time. Now, I've done this one for the Aquarius sun ingress. It's quite common for astrometeorologists to use the ingresses of the sun as a starting point. But you can do, now we're going to start with short-term weather charts. Now, what is a short-term weather chart? Daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly. So you could even do a solstice chart or an equinox chart. And hopefully you know what that is, but if not, ask afterwards. But you can base, and that would go for 3 months. So that's what David calls a short-term weather chart. And this is a short-term weather chart that I've got here. Now, if you've got your planet, your class notes, your key, I'll just go through the planets because they may even be not familiar to you. So we have the sun and we have the moon. Now, when we do long-term weather charts, we'll get to that. We'll have planet Earth, but I'll explain this as we go through. So the sun, moon, and then we go out Mercury, Venus, Mars. This one here that looks like a bit of a fancy 4 is Jupiter, Saturn. Now, we could go into a lot of detail about all of this, but I want to keep it simple. You know, I could tell you all about the ancient symbolism of Saturn and the fact that it was connected to agriculture, and it was connected to farming, and it was connected to time. And so therefore, it was formulated to look like a scythe. But there's so many different links that you can have with these, why these symbols have been chosen. But we will just go with these. All you need to know is this is what they are at the moment. So Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. And this is the Vega point, or the Vega star, that David includes, and which Inigo Jones used for weather. Very important to include that. And later I'll show you how to set this chart up. But at the moment, I'm just going to show you where to go to set it up. So we go to select. So this is the main screen of the software, the Astro Gold software. When you open up your software, this is what you should see on your Mac. Now, Rhonda Buttery is going to do on Sunday morning a class on Solar Fire, which is the other software program that we designed for Windows PC. But this is the Mac one. So we go to select and you go to new chart. And it's really as simple as that. The complicated bit really comes down when you want to know what to put here. There's lots of options. But we could do one, let's say we're going to do one for the beginning of the year. So we could put in January the 1st, 2024. We're going to do it just for the first month. We'll put in 1st of January 2024. So you type in, well, I could call that New Year. So you start and you put a name on your chart, whatever you want it to be.
Excuse me, Steph. We're only seeing the main screen. We're not seeing your pop-up screen.
Okay, thank you. Not used to Zoom on the Mac. Here we go. So we start by calling it a name. And, you know, some farmers, what they do is they do one for each month throughout the year. So you could call it January 2024, you could call it My Farm January, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. That's not going to affect it anything other than your records. But then you want to put in the date. So the date from which you want this chart to be going. Now the time is probably not so important, but because an ingress or something like that, if you're doing it for a new moon, you'll then know that time and you can put that in. But for tonight's purposes, we'll just put it in for the beginning of the year. And this is where you can do your place. So, you know, I could put in Echuca, I could put in, I've got Melbourne there, I could put in Frankston, we could put in Caloundra. I know somebody is up in Caloundra at the moment. Now, if you're in Australia, you can just tab through and you'll see if it's green, you're good to go from the point of view of your place. If it turns red, then the atlas does not have that place, or you may have spelled it a little bit differently to how the atlas has it. If that happens, then all you have to do is put in the nearest biggest town. Like you might live in a very small place. The farmers who I met up in Seymour in November, they were out scattered, and some of those places just won't be in the Atlas database. Others should be. We use a built-in atlas that's used throughout the world, and it's very, very reliable. But if your place is missing and you really want it in, then you can send me an email and say, Steph, I can't find this place. Can you ask the Atlas people to please include it? And I'll send it off and see if they can include it. And Jem's going to put that email address for you, if you haven't already contacted me, in the chat box as well. So I've put Caloundra Australia. We're green. We're good to go. You can put the type here. If I was you and it's a weather chart, I'd probably just for the sake of it, change it to event because it's a weather event. And this is where we get to the bit that David is doing. And what I've done too is I decided after I was making up these notes for today that they'd actually be quite useful for you to have afterwards. So you've actually got the settings in another one of those class notes. So I will get that sent out as soon as it's been done up nicely for you, probably on Monday, but it may be Tuesday. So again, if you want to take screenshots of this, you can, but you'll get the recording and you will get class notes of what the settings are. Now, David uses what is called a sidereal zodiac. And I'm not going to go into all the technicalities of why or wherefores, because again, as it does with the planet symbols, it can get quite complicated. But I am going to tell you that this is where you go for the zodiac. And it's as simple as coming here, and he uses the third one on the list called Lahiri. That's the zodiac for short-term charts. Now, he does something different for long-term charts. And when you go to his workshop, if you've been or you're going, he will go through this so quickly. And that's why we wanted to do something for you here so that you actually go, you don't have to say to him, stop, 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 what are you doing? You know, you actually have it. And he's been good enough to share this with us after a few text messages and phone calls, insisting. So this is Lahiri. And as I said, this is quite really quite valuable information because the way the chart sets up is going to be, it's a bit like an enigma code. That's what's going to give you the secrets, really. So we look at the zodiac, and then you'll see here houses. This is the one that David uses. It's called porphyry. And you'll see if I click on here, look at all the different ones. You can do so many different house systems, but David uses porphyry. Now, for short-term charts. And the coordinates are geocentric. Now, geocentric means that we are viewing things from the center of the Earth. So we're on planet Earth, and how are the planets affecting us on planet Earth? So it is geocentric. It is Earth-centered for short-term charts. And then you just, they're the ones. So if you want to screenshot that, they're the short-term ones. I'll just put that here so you can see that, short-term charts, weather. That's the settings. So now we have a short-term weather chart for Caloundra. You can put whatever place you want. The planets are going to shift. I'll show you that in a minute. We calculate it, and that's it. And then, of course, you have to start interpreting it. But the other thing is, what planets do you use? Because there are a lot of different displayed points that you can use. I will show you how to choose them when we've gone through long-term charts. But what I want to just mention now is that the planets that David uses for short-term charts, they're different to long-term. For short-term charts, it's the moon, the sun, all the ones that we've mentioned before and that are on your list, and the Vega point. And I'll show you how to add that Vega point, because it doesn't, it doesn't come like I've set it up. It doesn't come with this particular setup of planets. Most of them, but it might have extras that you don't need, or it might not have, won't have the Vega point set up. So this is basically it. And then you will learn how to sort of say, well, hang on, which are the key places? This is what's called the rising sign. I wasn't going to give you any theory, but if you're lucky, you'll kind of see that in Caloundra at the beginning of the year, we have, and this is very simple. I'm not an expert, but we will see that warm, dry, sunny sun down here on this particular line, that's warm and dry. So, but what happens is it's a bit like a cake. I can say, well, this is the flour and that's the sugar and that's the eggs, but it's how you put them all together. And that's where David's expertise comes into play. It's how he puts it all together. And that's what you'll be learning, no doubt. So that's short-term weather charts. Let's have a look at the long-term weather charts. We go back to select. This is going to be a bit different. We go again to new chart. Now, with our program too, you can save this. So you don't have to do it every time you come in. If you want to do 12 charts for the year, you can then come and save it to a particular file, and you can make up, if you know your Macs, you can make up your folders and put it into your folders, etc., and then come back and view them. And you can also test yourself, like if I was starting out and I thought, oh yeah, that means it's warm and dry, but it's actually a rainy day, then you would look to see, well, hang on, well, here's Neptune over here, that rules rain, that's sort of interplaying with this, and you'll start to learn by going back over things as much as you will by going forward. But let's just go to, so we go again for long term, we're going to do things slightly differently. So we go to new chart. So let's say we're doing the whole year. We still put in new year, we still put in January, we still put in 12 a.m. We'll keep Caloundra for the time being. And we go here, but this is where it's different. So I'll just write this in for you. Long-term weather chart. Weather charts. Settings. Don't photo it yet, because we're going to change this. It changes, and what it changes to is we have a tropical zodiac. So that one at the top, we choose this, the tropical zodiac. We still have the same house system, but now instead of viewing it from planet Earth, we're going to view it from the sun. So it's going to be heliocentric. So tropical and heliocentric change. And this is according to David. These are the settings that he uses for long-term charts. And the houses, they stay the same. And you calculate it for porphyry. So we just click on calculate. I'll just hold that for a second so that you can, if you want to take the picture, you can. And then we'll calculate. Now you'll see this has just appeared. This is the planet Earth. And see what's disappeared? The sun. And that's because we're now on the sun, looking out at the planets and seeing what relationship or what interplay they have in terms of the weather. But what David does here, and this is where you'll take this further with him, but he changes the points, these displayed points. He does not use all of these. So let's have a look and see how we do that, because that's the next thing that I want to show you. And we're just going to pull this down a little bit. So the next thing I want to show you is how to change the displayed points, the points that are displayed here, because these are not the ones that David will use in long-term charts. So we come like we do to most software, we come to preferences. And I've already got it on display, but you'll see there's, by the way, if you do have this software, you might want to change it to your home. And then if you're not, unless you're doing weather or something for anyone else, then you're likely to be doing the weather for your home anyway. And then it will just come up automatically. You won't have to put it in every time. So under home, you'll see I've got Melbourne, but you could change it if you're, but then again, you might move around the country. So it really depends. But all of these things I wouldn't worry about yet. If you want to take your astrometeorology further, you can certainly go down some of these paths, but let's just have a look at the displayed points for the time being. If you click on displayed, you will see that these are the ones highlighted, are the ones displayed. David takes out the moon, out the sun, out basically what we call the inner planets. So if you were standing on the sun, looking out on the solar system, you would take the ones out closest to the sun. We take them all out and we leave in Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. That's what those 5 planets are. They're the ones he does. So you can save it if you want to and call it weather points. And then we just click OK, or you could just go back to your chart and see they're gone. But in all weather charts, Inigo Jones, David Burton uses the Vega point or the Vega star, and that's not there automatically. So where did that crop up? So this is what I want to show you now. We go back to preferences and it is under displayed points, and we go to extra points. And you can see there it actually says 1 extra points. This will be relevant if you want to include anything. You might be doing some reading and some research and you might say, oh, I want to use something else. But we click on extra points. But as you see, you probably won't want the midpoints. So we go up here and we click at available extra points. And we click on stars because the Vega point is actually a star. And we click on stars. And basically, you just scroll down until you get to Vega, which obviously I've already done. And you just click add once you get to it, which I've already done. So you could add anything. You could add, let's just do it for, let's do one. Let's do the brightest star. I have no idea if this has any effect on weather. If it did, I'm sure David would be telling us. But let's just do it so you can see. So we click add. Now you see you've got 2 extra points. You can save it if you want to, or you can go, there it is. Interesting, it is actually very high in this chart, which might have some significance, but whether it has significance on the weather or not, I don't know. But that's how you add those extra complicated points. Now, when people are doing birth charts for astrology, they're not adding all of these necessarily. This is a specific topic. If you were doing trading, financial trading, you might be adding different points. I've had people add all sorts of different points for trading to see. You can, I have seen, well, I will do one thing while we're here and we've got a bit of time. I'll go back and I'll actually take out Sirius. So I want to take this one out. So I click on it and delete. And it's as simple as that. But I have seen David, add Jupiter and Saturn's nodes. Now, once again, I'm not going to explain what they are, but you go to nodes and app sides. And some of you, I don't know if others of you who followed his work have seen these, but you can add Jupiter and you can add Saturn's nodes. And some of these features have actually been added because David requested them. So here we go. There's those 2, the nodes of those planets, which has an astronomical significance. And that's how you add those displayed points, and that's how you take them away. So as I said, there's a lot more. I was thinking today about when I was doing this demonstration, there's a lot more I could go into. But I really wanted to give you an idea of where to get started, and I wanted to keep it short and simple so that you can just get started with David's settings in doing long-term and short-term. Now, what we've done here really, it may not feel like it, but what we've done here is David's got years and years of expertise, and I've got years and years of expertise in these astrology programs, and I've managed to distill or get that information from David about what settings he uses and get it into the charts, and then convey that to you in a way that hopefully you can go away and do your charts, and David can help you make sense of it. But what I want to do now, because there's been a bit of information, is to open this up for a discussion or for any questions that you might have. So Jem will unmute people, and you can put your videos on if you want to, and we can have a chat, or if not, you can go and have a cup of tea or something stronger, and we'll send you the recording later. I'll keep screen sharing, Jem. Is she there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll keep just in case people have questions about the actual software.
Easy. And so if anyone does have any questions, you can just raise your hand through reactions, and then I can unmute you. You're welcome to turn on your camera. It's always nice to see faces online.
I think we stunned them into silence.
Happens on Zoom.
Yep. Rhonda, is there anything you wanted to share?
No, I would have actually shown people how to enter their own property in the location bit. We've got a number of people who are on very remote areas that aren't anywhere near a town.
Okay, so new charts.
Just make up one for now.
Do you want to, have you got your Mac on, or have you got?
No, I'm on Windows.
Okay. I don't think
yeah, one of the fellows who did the class earlier his farm was called Boona. And the thing that's very important is that when you look up the latitude and longitude, you have to look up the degrees, not decimal. And just type in the town, type in Australia, type in the latitude as in degree, direction, minutes, and the longitude as degree, direction, minutes, and then your time zone, which will be wherever you are. And that will then be, you'll have that and can save that as a place in your computer.
Yeah, I knew we could do that on iOS because we have the Google. I wasn't aware that we could do that on the macOS.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, we might have been doing it on Solar Fire at that time, but you can still enter the places in. The co-host had asked me to start my video.
We can't. Oh.
Oh, I'm with you. I thought you meant the recording. Ding dong.
That's all right. So you call it like My Farm or something
Yeah,
like
that'll do it. Yeah. And then type in, like, just make, that's okay. Now enter some coordinates. Say 42 south 23.
But do you have
just S23, yeah. And now 152 east 22. And then put in your time zone, which that's probably New South Wales somewhere. So the AEDT would do it. And then calculate.
But it's red.
It'll still calculate. Red just means it hasn't automatically looked it up, but we know that we've got, if we check the coordinates and we've got it right, that's fine.
Steph, when you're ready, we've got a question from Ryan.
Yep. Okay. So, sorry, that was my typing.
You're jumping ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, it changed the ascendant. So yeah. So how do you save it?
Actually, what I said was partly correct because we were on solar fire and you can change it, but it doesn't matter whether you can save it or not. I haven't explored saving it on Astro Gold, but you can certainly enter your location and it will save with the chart when you save the chart.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think solar fire that you're demonstrating would be better for that. But anyway, what is Ryan's question?
So Ryan's question is, how do you know the significance of each house? Can you give an example of how to interpret the chart and what it means in relation to the weather? Fair questions.
Yeah, Ryan, that is a really fair question. But one of the things we really stressed was David's the expert in this field, and I don't know how you'd interpret the houses as far as the weather goes. He does. I know a tiny bit, and so I would say that if you've got this number 1 here, a planet in number 1 house is going to be the one that you would look at, and then I think a planet in number 4. But this is so simplistic, it gets quite complicated. That's why I did put a tiny bit of information about the planets and the signs, but I haven't done anything on the houses. So as I said, you'd probably be best to start to read I like H.S. Green's book, Astrometeorology, but as you start reading it again, you sort of it's going to take time to really start to be able to assimilate or integrate everything. I would love to be able to give you a simple kind of answer to that question, but this is something that, both Rhonda, who's going to do the solar fire class, and myself, who's doing this one, it's not our area of expertise. So we offered to do this class on how to set it up so that at least, because we're aware that most people are completely starting off afresh. And I remember what that was like when I started to learn about the planets and the signs, and it can be quite overwhelming, but you will get there if you plug away at it. That might be a question too for David. Ryan, are you doing David's class, or have you done it already? Just let me look at the chat, because you have done it. Okay, so has David given you any clues on that?
I need to do it again, as was very quick.
Reading that now. Yeah, I get that. David is very keen on people going away and learning as much as they can. Self-study, he calls it. That's the polite way of putting it. But I do think that if you start looking at those books, have a look at this key, and start kind of putting it all together, I think you'll get there. And I agree. I met people who'd done his class once and possibly twice, and they said that they picked up something new every time they did it. And I think that's true of anything that's completely new and something that they don't teach any of this in school. Yeah, David's Telegram, he gives snippets. You're right, Rhonda, he does give snippets, but again, it's kind of piecing it all together. And that is going to be the challenge, I think. It'll be a challenge for me, putting it all together, because, but I would say, just as a complete and utter amateur, if you're looking at this, first, let's have a look. What have we got? Let's go to now. New chart. We'll do it in Melbourne. You can just click on now. We'll go back we'll calculate it, but we want those other planets back in. So we'll go back to settings. We'll go back to just the display points here. We'll put Mars and Venus and Mercury and the Sun.
Did you show people how to save that setting arrangement?
Yes, save as. Yes, we called it weather points, remember? Yeah.
So Ryan's just messaged saying, do those 2 arrows with lines pointing to Gemini and Virgo mean anything?
What 2 lines? These ones?
The 2 in the...
No, I think he means Cancer and Virgo, but it's not exactly. Maybe it's the ascendant and the midheaven.
These Aries and Cancer. Hang on, let me just make sure that I've got the right settings for this short-term chart. Where'd we go? New chart. We've got the planets back in. We go to short-term. We had Lahiri. Yeah, we had geocentric and we had porphyry. So we'll calculate that and we'll just call it today. So let's see if we can't nut this out a bit. So we had quite a nice, warm, hot day today. If you look at your key, you'll see that Jupiter brings fair weather. Yes, if you're meeting these two lines here, Ryan, this is the rising sign. So anything that's near there, I believe, will be significant because that's a general thing whenever you're looking at the planets in these charts. And anything up here in the 10th house, I would imagine, would be, because that's high, that's the midheaven. So we've got Jupiter and Jupiter's nodes there. So we've got a fair weather day. I'm not sure about what that would mean over here. You'd be looking also down here and here. So with Saturn, we're looking at Saturn is cold and wet, but it can also kind of say, well, here we have a warm day. Let's just, what happens if we move this? What are we on? Plot 1 hour. We move it. Stop. Sorry, I clicked the wrong one. Where are we up to now? The 13th. So that's tomorrow. We start to see, it should be similar, but then we, this is where I think the Bureau of Meteorology says we're having rain tomorrow. So let me just get that back to one chart, swap it over. Go back to one chart. So that's tomorrow, and see how the charts moved and now we have completely different planets there. So the weather will have changed by the morning time, according to this chart. Now, David will give you more details on what that actually would look like with the weather, but let's have a look at our key. Well, Pluto would say it's going to be cooler. We've just got a message from David. He's called it the Bureau of Manure gets hammered on Sky News about rubbish forecasting. Oh my goodness me. So the sun, yes, that's warm and dry, unless it's in a violent combination. And this planet here would be considered a violent combination. Then we have the moon that's there as well, and that's the chilliest and wettest of all planets. So we start to see a different story here. So I think this section, which is the rising sign, the planets that are rising, is going to be quite significant. It's still not going to be cold though, because we've got Jupiter down here, which is a warmer planet. But, this is me just giving it a very rough amateurish type interpretation. But I'm sure that once you get to know more and more and know which, it's the only thing that's missing from here is really the houses, and also these lines here, we haven't gone through those. They make different aspects. So, one thing that I might make it my business to do over the next year or month or year or whatever is try and find out if I can see if David's got any clues on what aspects are significant and what houses are significant. And maybe we'll have another lesson further on how to get that all going. Any other questions? I can see chats. Oh.
Ryan just sent another message saying was on a previous chart, but same thing, pointing to different signs.
The rising sign, and this is the midheaven. So this is the highest point of the day. It's a bit different with these sorts of charts. The night is down here. So this is the rising sign, and this is what's coming up. So this is dawn, because we've got, the sun, or just before dawn, because we've got the sun here very close to rising. And then up here we have this other arrow is, the other arrow is the middle of the day. And that one thing I just did then is you can move this backwards and forwards in time. I keep clicking that fast arrow and have a look and see what changes, because the weather is dynamic and so is this chart, and you can do it just a little bit at a time.
So Ryan's just asked, what do the degree numbers next to the signs mean?
That's the particular degree that the planet's at in that constellation. So we would have a look at the sun is in this chart is at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. But what they mean in astrometeorology, I don't know. So this is where the planets are in the constellations. And when they're in, so Jupiter in I would imagine Aries would be a dry sign, warm and hot. Leo, hot and dry. The fire signs are hot. These are the fire signs. So Sagittarius, Aries, and Leo down here are fire. Then we have air. They must surely correlate to some of the weather, you know, the air, the wind. And then we have water signs like this one here. And this one, I would say, this is Neptune, and Neptune is in Pisces. And I would say that that influence of that Neptune must have something to do with all the flooding that David's been predicting. It must be something to do with Neptune. Now, David is holding another class or another workshop in February and then one in April. So armed with this information, you might be able to take a few charts along to that and see if you can correlate them with whatever he's teaching at the time. That's it. In terms of questions, I'm just going back through the chat.
No more questions in the chat box over here.
Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, then I will thank you very much for coming along. And you'll get a recording on Monday, and I'll also see if I can put those settings together and send you that sheet on Monday as well. And if any of you have a PC or know anybody who has a Windows PC, Rhonda's class is Queensland time, isn't it, Rhonda, on Sunday morning?
10 o'clock Queensland time, which is 11 o'clock in New South Wales and Victoria. And it will be, I don't think Western Australia does daylight time either, so that'll be 8 o'clock on Sunday morning.
All right. Thank you so much for those who've come along. And Ryan, thanks for your questions. And please let us know. You know, we're based here in Melbourne, and you're quite welcome to email me and let us know how you're getting along. And if I can help you, I certainly will. Same with Rhonda. She's on our support line for Astro Gold. She can help you with any settings or things that should all go very smoothly, but if it doesn't, just let us know. And thanks for coming.